Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad Free Shows, Podcast Heat, and Wrestling According to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. We are live on WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com. We got a bunch of people watching. Drop your comments, drop your questions throughout the show. And if you're not a member of WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com, sign up now. You get the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You get WWE, AEW previews, review shows, Q&As, tape studies, so much fun. And you get, most importantly, as I said, this guy right here. What's going on, my man? You got some post-concert blues, I'd got to imagine. You had a hell of a time at Pearl Jam, it looked.
Yeah, good time rocking a little merch. Got a couple updated Pearl Jam shirts last night. Even got the wife. She wanted to get one. She had a very good time. I just want to say, first and foremost, I want to say hello to those people, the Wrestling According to Alba people. As we know, those people is a pretty common phrase. It gets uttered around here quite a bit. So I would throw it to you guys. I hope you guys are all doing well.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. You have to feed these people, Matt. You have to feed these people. You have to watch these people, Matt. That's how she refers to our gaggle, the children, the majority of the time. So, it's very, very good to be talking and interacting in front of these people of Wrestling According to Alba. I love it when you guys are on here. This is so cool. What a cool perk of being a member of the Wrestling According to Alba site.
So tell us about the concert, bro.
It was great. It was really cool. I am not up to date. I've heard the new album, but I don't know all the songs, very strongly. I know a couple of the bigger hits. They start off with one of those songs, which is cool, but the second song, as soon as they play the first few notes of it, it was Corduroy, and that's my favorite song, and that's what I was hoping they would play. And it was cool because the guy that was right beside me said, and it's so funny, he was sitting beside us, right? There's the pit area in front, and then we were like 9 rows back, so it was good seats. And he was sitting beside me. He said, "Oh shit!" He said, "I didn't want to bother you." And this was right before the concert started. He said, "I didn't want to bother you, but I sat beside your brother." And I was like, "Are you kidding?" He said, "I was
the
here
odds of that?
I was here Sunday night, but I sat beside your brother." I said, "What? Hold up! You sat beside my brother on Sunday night?" He said, "No, on an airplane a few months back." Which was so funny. And I was like, I thought literally because he was here on Sunday that you sat beside him, and he didn't. But he was great. And even like as soon as they came out and the lights went down, he said, "Oh, it was great talking to you." But it was cool. He was a big Hardy's fan too, on top of that. And it was so funny because they played the first song and it was good. And then Rebby was like, "Oh man, everything cool?" I said, "Oh yeah, I just don't know the song. It's one of their new songs." And then they hit that Corduroy and went nuts. They played Corduroy, they played Black. They played Elderly Woman Behind a Counter in a Small Town. And it's funny because I was singing that to Rebby and I was telling her how it's this love song. And she got offended at first saying I was calling her an elderly woman. But it's great. There's a video that we recorded, which I hope she gives it to me in full because it's so amazing. As I'm singing her, I'm serenading her as they're singing that song. They played Alive. They played Porch. They played Even Flow. They had a lot of great songs. And the guy that was sitting beside me that was there Sunday, he said there were a lot more hits, and he thought the energy was even better on the Tuesday night show than the Sunday night show. I was happy it turned out well.
Yeah, well, I really dig that they're one of those bands that changes up the set every night. I think that's really great for giving your fans a good experience, especially for like that guy who bought a couple tickets there. He saw a different show each night, which is really taking care of your fans, and I can appreciate that a lot. Eddie Vedder sounded good, 60 years old.
He sounded amazing, and he had great energy. He was all over the stage. He was going nuts. Like Rebby couldn't believe that he was 60. I almost had to like just pull it up and show her his legit, birth date, and that he is legitimately 60 years old. He was great, man. And I love, the speaking he does in between songs. He just speaks in such a gimmick. I feel like he's such a caricature or a wrestling character in so many ways because kind of the way he communicates. And I guess that's him. And I'll never forget whenever we met Stone Gossard. He came to WrestleMania 19. I think I've shared this before. I think I've talked about this on here, right? And his nephew was like a huge Hardy Boys fan, and that he'd contacted the Pearl Jam's people contacted WWE. Is there any way Stone Gossard's nephew could meet the Hardys? And we said, yeah, sure. And they hooked us up. And Jeff and I, we actually went to a Charlotte concert and got to sit on the corner of the stage. And we met Eddie at the end of that. And I just remember he said, "Oh, I don't watch any wrestling, but it must take an amazing athlete to do that. That's so cool that, you know, we can all live different lives. And he was so enthusiastic. And even looking back in hindsight, you know, we were trying to be cool, like, hey, we're WWE stars or whatever. Like, I was so upset that I didn't ask to take a picture with the band. You know, I just didn't. We just sat back and kind of shot the shit with them. But it was cool. And like I said, it's been so long since I've seen them live. I saw them several times, you know, like, and the 90s, late 90s, in the 2000s. But it was cool, man. And like that guy said before me, he said, I've been to 40 shows. He said, I've never seen a bad show. You know, every time they do a show, it's a great show. So they give it their all. It's pretty amazing.
You get it, bro. That's what it's all about. There's just something about live music. I'm leaving for Tampa in less than 24 hours as I'm going to be heading down to what I expect to be my final AC/DC concert, which I'm very melancholy about, but that's my band. I have a deep appreciation for Pearl Jam. You know, Eddie Vedder is a disciple of Springsteen, so they're tight, they're boys, and I think he picked up a lot from Bruce over the years of performance. And it's good to hear at 60 his skills have not deteriorated, and that he's doing well.
They have not deteriorated. You know,
that's great, man. That's awesome. Glad you had a great time. Looked like Jeff had a great time the other night too.
He did, yeah. It was so cool too. I love that he posted that family photo right before they left to go to the concert. He, you know, you don't see his kids a lot, so it's crazy how big Ruby is. It's insane. She's like a woman.
How old?
She will be 15 this year, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
In a few months, yeah.
That is crazy.
It is wild.
Oh boy. Well, I'm glad you had a great time. Glad Rebecca had a great time as well, and everyone is thriving here on this Wednesday morning. You may notice I'm rocking, if you're watching on the Matt Hardy Brand YouTube channel.
Perfecto.
I'm rocking my Kowloon little pullover here, and the reason is because Matt Hardy, the Hardy Party, is coming to Kowloon outside of Boston on August 10th. Holy moly, this is going to be a hell of a night at one of the true meccas of pro wrestling in the United States. A live Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, followed by a live Jeff Hardy acoustic concert, a meet, greet, and delete with limited VIP tickets available. You can get those tickets at hardyboyslive.com. That's HARDYBOYZ live.com. And of course, there's limited GA available as well. Matt, the great thing about this show, too, aside from all these amazing perks that come with purchasing a VIP ticket or even just getting in the building with a GA, is this is a full functioning restaurant, and Kowloon's got some of the best Chinese food out there. This is going to be a hell of a night.
It is the most amazing restaurant that you'll ever dine in. You will have an amazing experience if you go to Kowloon's and eat. You will love it because it's a place that was like a staple of my early days in WWE. Because whenever we would do WWE in Boston or in that area, and we had a chance to go to Kowloon, we would be there, and there would be hundreds or sometimes thousands. There would be 1,000 people outside sometimes after shows in the Boston Garden when we were in that area. It's crazy how popular that place was. And Andy, the owner, always took care of us. I've maintained a relationship with him for decades. And it's so cool that we're going to be doing this event here. I know this event is 3 months away. It's there's quite a bit of time, but I'm telling you right now, this event will sell out. So if it is important to you to be here, you need to get your tickets early because this event will 100% sell out, no doubt.
Yeah, and this VIP meet, greet, and delete is an awesome value because you're going to get a chance to meet the Hardys. You're going to get a chance to get your picture taken with the Hardys. You're going to get a chance to get a signed item from the Hardys. You're going to get a chance to talk to the Hardys because it is going to be limited tickets available. So you'll get a couple minutes with the Hardys here. You're going to get priority seating, which is something that you don't typically get when you meet the Hardys because you're getting 2 shows for the price of 1 plus the food that you're going to be able to order there too. It's just such an awesome value. hardyboyslive.com. Our last Boston show that you and I did was incredible. We had Mark Henry show up. We had Daniel Garcia show up. We had Zay show up. John Cena Sr. showed up. This was truly a heck of a night, man. And I can't wait to relive it here.
Yeah, I can't either, man. I love going to Kowloon. You never have to twist my arm to get me to go to Kowloon and have a bite to eat. So I'm super excited about this, and I can't wait to chow down. I can't wait to meet all the diehardies that are coming out. I can't wait to meet all the people that tune in at 6 a.m. on Friday morning to listen to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. It's going to be an extremely fun night.
It is, and we can't announce it just yet, but next week we'll be able to talk about it. You guys are going to be doing something pretty historic the night before Kowloon in New England, and that's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to get a chance to talk about that. So be on the lookout, my friends. The Hardys are taking over New England in August, and it is going to be an awesome time. We're hoping to have a few live shows July into August, so be on the lookout for those. HardyBoysLive.com is where you can get your tickets for the Kowloon extravaganza.
And in that same vein, John, I just wanted to shout out all the people that came out to Northeast Wrestling last Saturday night.
Yeah, hell of a show it looked like.
They had 2,700 people there. We were in that arena could hold 3,800, maybe 4,000 people, and it was packed. It's crazy. It was packed. They were loud. They were vocal. We had a first time evers match, the Hardys versus Rizango, and a lot of fun. Really good. Start off with some great entertainment. Fandango, he said he heard Jeff as like some sort of hot shit dancer. He said, so no one can dance better than me. Everyone knows I'm the supreme dancer. So they had a dance off right from the jump. And the crowd was involved. It was entertaining from beginning to end. It was absolutely amazing. And the people there were so great. The meet and greet that we did actually went about 4 hours. We signed until after the show started just to kind of get through everybody.
Holy moly. Well, there you go. Hell of a night there as well. Northeast Wrestling puts on some great shows.
Yeah.
So go check them out. Go support them. Coach Rosie in the chat saying he's been to 2 Hardy parties and they're always off the chain.
I love it. Coach Rosie is great. And I'm excited. Coach Rosie is going to be out in Arizona. If I'm not mistaken, when we're there with TNA, I think he's got a gig, and I'm super excited and happy for him. He is such a hard worker. He helped Jeff and I out so much over WrestleMania weekend when we were in Vegas, driving us around, helping us out. So, Coach Rosie, thank you. You are the man, brother.
There you go. Good stuff there. I do want to ask you, man, we had Backlash this past weekend. John Cena retaining the WWE Championship over Randy Orton. A lot of gaga in this match, and R-Truth interfering, and now it's looking like we're going to get R-Truth and John Cena. Certainly feels like quite the bit of a greatest hits retirement tour here for John Cena, squaring off with the likes of Randy and with his old pal R-Truth. And what are you thinking here so far of how all this has been playing out?
It's going to be interesting. I haven't had a chance to see the pay-per-view yet. I would like to go back and watch some of it. But I saw there were some people that reported they thought John seemed conflicted, about being the bad guy and maybe turning into a villain, which is an interesting little layer to maybe put on this. The fact that he is doing that with R-Truth is very interesting. I'm very happy that Truth is going to get the opportunity to have that match if they end up going there. If people are into it, man, and they're still willing to see these matches, they're still willing to buy tickets to go to these matches. I'm here for it.
Your boy Hurricane ate an RKO the other night too.
Couldn't have happened to a better guy.
It's funny. He was RKOing the entire 2006 WWE Cruiserweight division in that one segment. It was nuts. Jamie Noble taking one too. But can't say the RKO's not over, because it remains to be very, very over. A pretty newsworthy show in a lot of areas. Jeff Cobb debuting in WWE too. So they got a lot going on. Did you ever interact with Jeff Cobb at all?
Just a couple times at AEW, when he was doing some AEW work, and that was the first time I met him, and just, very friendly, kosher.
Yeah. Good talent, really good talent. I'm curious to see what he ends up doing under the WWE banner. And I actually reported earlier this week too that TNA is going to be represented at Triple Mania this year. Joe Hendry, Moose, the Nemeths are going to be there. It's a pretty big deal. WWE talent, TNA talent, AAA talent, obviously all under the same roof. What do you think about the representation there?
I think it's great. Once again, I think it's great. The more TNA can expand its boundaries and grow into a bigger international promotion, once again, I think it's just a net positive in many, many ways. So I think it's very cool that those talents are going. I know we were asked about that, and just in full transparency, we're booked already those weekends. So we were asked about doing them, but we weren't able to, obviously. But, maybe sometime down the road we will.
So when Dave Meltzer reported that he was expecting the Hardys to be on that show, it was looking like a degree of Matt fact there, but there were circumstances beyond your control.
We were asked about it, no doubt.
Okay. Is that something you'd like to do?
I'm not opposed to it. I think there's a part of Jeff, because I did that one Triple Mania where it was supposed to be myself and Jeff in the main event, and that's right after Jeff had gotten in trouble back in AEW. I ended up going down there and I teamed with John Morrison, Johnny TV, Johnny Nitro. He was Johnny Hardy on this specific evening until he betrayed me at the very end of the match.
Yes, that's right. You did do that. Yeah. Well, we'll see. The Hardys in Mexico, you never know. And some amazing wrestling history there. And we'll see. Maybe never say never on something like that. So, anything else you want to add?
I'd never say never too. I'm not going to lie. I would love for Matt Jeff Hardy to pick up the AAA tag team titles.
Okay. All right. There's something thrown out there. It's under the WWE banner now. Who's to say?
There you have it. Yeah.
Anything else you want to hit on here before we get into our main topic?
No, I think we're pretty good. The only thing I'd really like to remind people of is that this weekend, myself and Jeff, we're going to be doing meet, greets, and deletes at the Motor City Comic-Con outside of Detroit in Novi. And we are also doing a Hardy Party on Friday night. And this is a huge convention. And I love the fact that we're the only wrestlers that are on it. And Tony, the guy who books it, said we're the only wrestlers they would book. Like, he tried to get other people on it, and they said, no, we want the Hardys. We just want the Hardys. And they've advertised this with the other top stars, people like Lord of the Rings and John Berthal and everything else. And we're in the video with all these guys. So it should be a huge turnout, and it should be a really good con this weekend. So if you are coming to the Motor City Comic-Con, we hope to see you there. And Friday night, a Hardy Party.
There you go. You love to see it. You love to see it. Matt, we are going to be paying tribute to someone who the wrestling world lost this past week, someone that you had quite a few interactions with, and I'm excited to hear some of those stories here. The late, great Sabu. But before we can, you know what I got to do. Please, my friend, hit us with that Matt fact.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to have to go with two this week. So I'm going to start off with the first one we can explain, then I'll hit the second one. Matt fact. Matt wants the Hardys to be the Pearl Jam of wrestling.
Okay.
Matt fact number 2. Matt fact. Matt had massive respect for Sabu.
Okay. I think the second one kind of speaks for itself, and we'll dive into that. But the Pearl Jam of wrestling, is that just aging like fine wine sort of thing here? Yeah,
well, there was a guy, like I said, that was beside me in the show, and he said, I was a huge fan. I think he was around my age. He said, we're close to the same age, so I'm guessing he knew what my age was. He said, we're close to the same age. He said, and it's crazy. I'm so happy I still get to see Pearl Jam with Eddie Vedder. He said, because of like the big 4, the big 5, he said, they're the only ones left. And, there's so many, like Nirvana, done. No Kurt Cobain, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, STP. And I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, that is wild. Like just how, and they also talked about how the whole band has been together 34 years, with very little changes. They have like a lot of the original, almost the original crew. So it's really cool. And they have aged like fine wine. And one thing I was noticing so much is like, we continually update our stuff, but the things that got the biggest reactions are their greatest hits, right? When they play Black, the crowd goes nuts. Everybody's singing every word. When they play Alive, when they play Even Flow, when they play those big hits, right? And it's just, Alive is their Swanton. Even Flow is their Twist of Fate. And it's very similar in many ways. And there's like new moves. We started doing that plot twist, and it got over pretty quick. So I guess it's the Dark Matter, right? It's the newer song that people liked and they were vibing to. There's new things that Jeff and I have been doing where we do different combinations. We shoot the guy in, we give him a double kick. I take the guy, give him a chin breaker, and then Jeff comes with a flying Larry. We've been doing that. We do the thing with the slingshot on the ropes, and Jeff does a leg drop. We're like always updating our arsenal, and that stuff slowly kind of gets over. But like at the end of the day, all these songs like Alive, all these songs like Even Flow, Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town, Porch, Black, everything off 10, right? And then a lot of the other songs, Corduroy for me, it takes you back to a time in your life where things were special. You were discovering this music, and just everything felt great in the 90s. Everything felt so great, and you're young and you're youthful. And Jeff and I, we were starting to become successful in pro wrestling, and it takes you back to that time. And I know whenever we wrestle, there's grown-ups now that go back to when they were children and they were discovering wrestling for the first time, like, oh my God, these Hardy guys are crazy. The Twist of Fate, the Swanton, it takes them back to their earlier years, a very special time. So the nostalgia is very real on both effects. So there's a huge comparison there in many, many ways. And I actually just thought about that. Like, it's crazy how similar we are. And also how Eddie would, put over the town he was in. And Raleigh really was good. They sold out 2 nights. So also too, it very, very much reminded me of how, as a performer, Eddie Vedder, he would put over the town, he would compliment it. He was talking about how he came before they ever made it big and they were a mainstream band. They came to Cat's Cradle, this real iconic place in downtown Raleigh where all these up and coming bands would perform. They performed there. And he said, oh, and I was in Raleigh, and I remember I had this bike, and I rode a bike, and I went on these beautiful roads, and there were trees that were connected over the road, and it was so lovely. And I met some of the local people, and they were so friendly, and we did this and all. We had a meal, and it was so delectable, and it just reminded me of what a great time we had here. He said, and I think if we lived anywhere else besides Seattle, it would probably be Carolina. He said, but I said, I obviously never made it out of there. But once again, the crowd loved all that, and he incorporated Carolina into a song at one point. And really, really playing to the crowd and putting them over. And it was they were sold out on Sunday and Tuesday, both packed. The houses looked great, brother.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a Mick Foley cheap pop there, putting over Raleigh and the Carolinas.
I mean, that's what they do. That's what anybody does.
Listen, it is very hard to sell out an arena once, let alone doing it twice in a 3 day span.
I was blown away. They sold out Raleigh twice because it's like a 19,500 size venue. It's big, so it was cool.
It's not easy. It's very hard to do that. It's also hard when you got Blue Chew flowing through your system, Matt Hardy. And thankfully, if you listen to The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, you can get that flowing through your blood as well. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong it'll knock your socks off, your neighbor's socks off. They'll be hearing it from Cameron to Raleigh and beyond, because you're going to have to move towns with the amount of noise you're going to be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived. It combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable form. This combo acts fast, it lasts. Be ready when she needs it. Get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you are approved, you're going to receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it is all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. It is nice and easy. Man, it was date night for Rebecca and Matthew on Tuesday night. And look, I'm not saying there were extracurriculars after the concert, Matt, but it wouldn't be hard to suggest that was plausible with Blue Chew.
Not at all. And one thing I have to say, there's a lot of times nowadays, especially as I'm at an advanced stage, when I wake up, I'm stiff, and it's the bad kind of stiff. With Blue Chew, when you wake up, it's the good kind of stiff. And that's sometimes when the extracurricular activities go down.
There you go. Well, we want to make life easier by getting harder and discovering your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners here. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code HARDY, H-A-R-D-Y. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code HARDY. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. All right, my man. Let's talk Sabu. We lost him far too young, 60 years old, passed on May 11th. Not entirely sure as of recording time here of all the details surrounding that, but this is a man who was truly one of the great legends of professional wrestling in the 90s, the suicidal, homicidal, genocidal, death-defying maniac, one of the true innovators of his era. You are someone who you're going to share over the course of this episode. You had many interactions with Sabu over the years. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
It was sad. As crazy as this sounds, I hated to hear it because I'd seen him just recently and I heard he'd been doing better. But Sabu is someone, just because he lived a very hard life in many ways. I didn't expect him to live to be extremely old as it was anyway. So it was sad. It was saddening, and it broke my heart to hear that. But in a lot of ways, I wasn't extremely shocked, just because he is really he has lived a hard life inside the ring and outside the ring.
Let's talk about your last interaction that you had with him. You talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show, but it was right after his final match with Joey Janela. Right. Is that correct?
Yes. So they were on right before the Fourth Rope show was. And I guess there were a couple issues with Sabu and his injury, and they had to take time, and it slowed a lot of the process of the show and maybe the breakdown and everything else. But there was a point where I'd walk by and I saw him in a room and I was like, hey, and he was back there and he was being iced, and you could see he had blood all over him, where he had his barbed wire match. I said, hey man, how's it going? You all right? You're all right? He said, yeah, I'm okay. I just took a couple bad falls, but it's not that bad. I'll be fine, whatever else. And so, all right, man, well, it's good to see you. So, it's good to see you too. Good to see you. And that was the last time I interacted with him. I saw him and we did a wave at WrestleCon because he was there the next couple of days. But that was the last interaction where I just kind of popped my head in the room he was in, as they were kind of tending to him, and chatted with him for a few minutes. Sabu always from day one's been nice. He's always been very nice. It's crazy because people wouldn't expect it of Sabu, but he had a pretty sneaky sense of humor too. He was a pretty funny guy. I thought he had a real good self-depreciating sense of humor in ways too. He was a funny dude.
He on social media, he had some pretty funny quips, and it's hard to tell whether he was trolling or genuinely just being naive to things, but he was very funny in that sense. Misunderstood guy, in your opinion?
Maybe. I mean, I think he's a very polarizing guy to a lot of people. The first time. So the first time I technically met him was whatever year that invasion happened. When ECW came to WB and we were there as extras. It was in Philly.
97.
Was it 97? I was going to say 96. So if that was in 97, that's the point where they did the thing. We were there as extras, and the locker room was all not in the loop, and they're like, what is going on? As this went down, they're like, let's go kick their ass or whatever, they were fired up. And then they obviously left, and we just by chance happened to go to Penn's Landing. I think that's correct. Penn's Landing in Philly. Is that right? And there was a Hooters there, and we were in there eating after the show. And then here comes the ECW crew. There's Raven and there's Sandman, there's Sabu, the crew who just been at the WWE show prior. And then Raven comes over there, and he's like, "So, what were they saying? Were you guys were backstage, right? So, what were they saying? Were the guys upset? Were they mad? What was going on?" He was looking for gossip or tea to see if the guys were truly in the loop, or if they've been kind of kayfabe of everything that was happening. And Sabu was just over in the table. He was distant from everyone. He was not talking to people. He was not being friendly. He was not being normal. He was very much in character the whole while. So that was my first impression of him. He just said, "Oh, these guys are wrestlers." And Sandman, who was he'd had a few, as you can imagine, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Sabu, look, these guys are great." Blah 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 blah. I've seen them a couple times. It's the Hardys. They got a lot of potential. And Sabu was just like, So it was very. When we met him, he was very much in gimmick, and he very much protecting what his character was at that time.
Yeah. So I want to dive a little bit more. Was that the first time you had heard of Sabu? Had you seen video of him before?
No, we were huge fans of Sabu from his ECW stuff. I mean, as you can imagine, whenever we saw the tag team ladder match, we're like, hey, that's the kind of stuff we would like to do, and we started incorporating that. And then we saw Sabu, and this guy would lose a match, and he would just do a moonsault through a table and break it. It was very much up Jeff's alley. So we thought that was cool. I mean, Sabu was such a trailblazing groundbreaker in so many ways. The whole table concept would not have been as popular as it is if not for Sabu. Sabu is really the guy that put that on the map, and he made using the inanimate table as an object in a wrestling match. It made it like must-see television.
He's trained by his uncle, the Sheik, breaks into wrestling in the early 90s. He has a run on the indies at that time, and the indies aren't really much of a big thing at that juncture. You had your regional promotions, and some of those were being consolidated, but he's working independent shows to the best of his ability, and he's stealing the show. He's getting great opportunities and putting on matches that tape traders are looking after, and there's a lot of buzz about him in the early 90s. So much so, I believe it was 93, before he had broken out on TV anywhere or anything of that nature, he placed second in the Wrestling Observer Wrestler of the Year Lou Thez Awards nominations, which is crazy to think that an indie wrestler at that time would get that kind of buzz.
Right.
What do you think it was about him? Because this is before he's even doing extreme stuff. Speaking about the performer himself, I know you probably weren't watching his indie stuff at the time, but what did he bring beyond just the extreme stuff as a performer?
I mean, he was a very talented athlete, no doubt about it. I mean, when you see him doing, these moonsaults and diving out of the ring, he was fearless. He, in his mind, he had a vision of what he wanted pro wrestling in his way, how he wanted it to be. This is how he saw himself doing pro wrestling. This is the way he was going to pursue it. And he wasn't going to bend on any of that, because the Sheik raised him to be very kayfabe, protect your character, protect your identity, protect, your all your work, and protect, the fact that you're not going to be seen with your enemy or the guy you're wrestling, your rival, whatever it may be. So that was very much embedded in him, and he was taught how to work aggressively if need be. But I think on top of that, with this layer, he's like, well, I'm very acrobatic. I can do a lot of cool things. I can do this Arabian moonsault. I can do a moonsault. I can dive out of the ring. I can, jump on the ropes and do springboards. And there's a lot of innovative stuff I can add to this on top of what, I've already been trained to do by the Sheik. And I think he just incorporated all that stuff. And at that time, there weren't guys really doing that. It was very rare. I mean, the only other person I can think about that was doing stuff that incredible at that time was Too Cold Scorpio, because I remember he ended up doing that, 450 splash, and he kind of put that on the map more than anybody else did.
I'd probably put Rob in that conversation too. RVD. I think RVD was similar boat in that regard. He breaks into ECW 93. He was doing some work with NWA. He is a huge heel at the time, and they bring him in as the foreign heel at first. It's really not working. So then he starts leaning into the whole character that we grew to know and love and revere about Sabu. And very quickly, I believe it was his second match with ECW, he defeats Shane Douglas to become ECW heavyweight champion. I know you've never had these conversations with any of these stakeholders, but you know Paul Heyman to an extent. You knew Sabu here.
Right.
What do you think Paul saw in Sabu at that time, 93, 94, that it felt like a good opportunity to strap a rocket on him and try to take ECW to a new height?
I mean, I think Paul Heyman is the most advanced booker, promoter that can look at a talent and say, this is the wave of the future. This is where things are going. He sees what's new. He's constantly on the pulse. I feel like he's on the pulse even as he's gotten older. He's been on the pulse of what is cool in modern day society in pro wrestling more than anybody else. And I think he saw that in Sabu. He's like, there's something very special here. We can create something special. And I think if you saw the way he booked Sabu, the way he utilized Sabu, I remember those music videos he would make of Sabu. One that is burnt in my mind is the one to the Alice in Chains song Grind, that they made of Sabu. I just watched that back recently after he passed away, right? Just thinking about how cool that was when I saw it on ECW TV. And I remember it was in slow-mo, and he just tried to do all that he could to really get him over without having him talk or like break character, seem like this crazy, guy who wrestled and it was half-assed nonverbal, but he was the most amazing human highlight reel you could possibly see. And I think Paul Heyman realized he really had something special in Sabu and what all he could do.
I mean, he certainly was a very special talent, and the intangibles were there. He jumped off the page in a very unique way that I think there are a lot of indie wrestlers today, Matt, who don't even realize that they were inspired by Sabu just because his. Go ahead. You want to say something on that?
100%. You're absolutely right. I absolutely concur. There's a lot of people that Sabu really put this style in place and started doing it, and there's other mainstream people that have emulated it. They got it from Sabu, and now these younger people are doing it because they saw someone more mainstream in a WWE ring that was doing it.
Like the type of wrestling that Tony Khan grew to love. Tony Khan was a huge ECW guy back in the day, right? You used to talk about all those times he went to ECW shows, and there's no doubt that someone like Sabu was extremely influential on that style that would ultimately emulate itself into a lot of AEW matches. So
yeah,
a total trailblazer in a lot of ways in that regard. But after ECW goes under, he had these amazing feuds with the likes of Taz. He had the tag team with RVD. He's a huge part of that. He doesn't make the jump to WWE in 2001 when a lot of the other ECW guys did when the promotion went under. I know there were personal factors in play there, but do you think he would have fit at the time of the invasion angle?
Maybe. I mean, he probably could have. I feel like he has in his mind there's a certain style he wants to wrestle, and I felt like he probably thought to himself, like, this isn't my style, so I don't want to do it. And he kind of did have that mentality in a lot of ways. Like, he has a specific style and way he wants to perform, and if he can't do things his way, I feel like he's okay with sitting out of it.
Well, it's funny because of all the talent that come over during the invasion angle, there's two that stand out to me as being the most successful. Booker T, WCW side,
Rob Van
and
Dam.
RVD, ECW side.
Yep.
That style was super in at the time. I think if Sabu had come over and if he had been given a similar presentation to Rob, he could have been very successful at the time, especially let's say they put RVD and Sabu against the Hardy Boys in 2001.
Sure. That would have been great. I mean, you talk about being influential as well. Like the Poetry in Motion, that came from Rob and Sabu as well. They did that, and then once we were on WWE, we said, "Oh, we should do that." That's the thing they did at ECW. It'd be a cool move. We could do it here. That obviously came from them. That was inspired by Sabu and Rob Van Dam when we first started doing that as well. Yeah, that could have been great. But also, I think probably the rules and just working for WWE and the strictness that would kind of surround working for WWE at that time probably wasn't too attractive to Sabu as well, because I feel like he always kind of took pride in looking at himself as like an outlaw, a renegade, a rebel in so many ways.
That's interesting about taking the Poetry in Motion move from RVD and Sabu, because you did have a chance to actually wrestle RVD and Sabu. The first time was on February 11th, 1998, an ASW event in Greenville, North Carolina, and they beat you guys in 10 minutes and 22 seconds. This is height of ECW, right? Like, they are molten hot, 98. You guys are just on the up here. What do you remember about that night?
Oh, well, that was the first time we actually got to interact with Sabu, and we got to, he exposed Terry Brunk to us, and we didn't just get Sabu outright. The first thing I remember is, like, we were showing up to that show. We were supposed to wrestle two other top North Carolina indie guys that night, and the main event was going to be like RVD versus Dreamer or Sandman or something, but there was a travel issue and somebody couldn't get in, and they were able to get RVD and Sabu together. So the guy said, "Hey, I want to put you guys on last because I think you guys can have a great match, a killer match." And then we talked to them. Jeff had worked with Rob on TV. We had met Rob a couple of times at WWE when he'd done a couple of things during that, ECW, WWE deal they had for a while. So we knew him. We were friendly with him. And then I remember talking with Sabu. He's like, "Okay, so like, what do you guys want to do? Well, let's go out there and whatever we want to do, we can do. This is like ECW rules. Anything goes. We'll do whatever we want to do here, And he was super nice. He was super down to do whatever. They were very generous in what they gave us, because now I feel like something that we do to people all the time is like we try and give them a rub. If they have a great match with the Hardys, it helps them. And, that's 100% what they did for us on that evening. And I'll never forget, one of my favorite things is you have Jeff. I mean, he didn't know what to expect. Once you get out there with Sabu, is he going to turn into the character? Does the character become real when you're out there working against him? Does he start beating you up? Who knows? There's some guys that are like that, right? Or were back in the day, especially. They're brawling across the building, and Jeff loves this story so much. And Sabu looks at Jeff and says, "Hey, wait, stop. Don't go that way. Go this way. Go to the left." He said, "Because there's a bunch of broken glass over there, and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to get cut." And they did. They fought off like that. He said, "We don't want to get near that broken glass." And Jeff was like so blown away by that. He's like, "This is the guy that does these barbed wire matches, that does these crazy gigs, that like would do any kind of match or do anything, but like he was like being safe and protecting me out there." And that earned so much of Jeff's respect with him saying that, and mine too, for what it's worth. And then we went out there. They said, "Okay, well, we'll do this thing where we'll put you through the double table at the end, but we'll do a false finish. But, you guys get us on the table first. Like, you guys are going to do something." And, we had like a really nice competitive match, and it kind of went all over the building for whatever, 10, 11 minutes. And it was cool, man. They were great afterwards, and we always kind of got along with them good. And we did learn on that day that, like, not only was Sabu pretty selfless, he was very cool with helping us out and trying to elevate us that night. And Rob as well. I'll also throw RVD in there also because he did the same. And also we were super surprised that Sabu had such a like sneaky sense of humor too. He was a pretty funny guy.
Everyone the past week has come out and said how giving Sabu was in the ring to people. And he really liked to try to highlight people, even if he was the one doing all the human highlight stuff.
Right.
Would you agree with that assertion?
Yeah. He did. I mean, because he took a lot of pride in the fact that he wanted the match to be great, in the greater good. He's going to go out and do his stuff, but he wanted other people to do cool stuff too. So it makes the match all the better.
He comes to WWE. He's with TNA for a little bit in the early to mid 2000s. And he comes to WWE on a 1-year contract in 2006, debuting at the One Night Stand show. The second one, he faces Rey Mysterio for the world title. And it's a pretty exceptional match. There's a really scary spot in it where both he and Ray go through a table and a DDT coming off the ropes. I mean, it's a gnarly spot. And
it's where he springboards out and he catches Ray on the table and DDTs him through it, right?
And they go DDT through it, and it's pretty gnarly. They stop the match, rule to no contest. Ray ends up retaining there, but it's pretty clear right off the bat that there are some plans for him in WWE, especially with this ECW brand relaunching. What do you think the importance of having Sabu there was for the relaunch, and why do you think it was essential to have him in the fold in WWE at the time?
I mean, Sabu was a tried and true ECW guy, and I feel like he had not been watered down at that point. And you let him go out and go nuts, and then I feel like the people that loved ECW, that were feeling the nostalgia, that could maybe power that brand into becoming something special. I felt like Sabu is the representative you want from the original ECW. He's not someone who's been watered down and having like cartoonish matches. He's been having Sabu matches all the while.
What was always so fascinating to me was if you pay attention to his very short WWE run, because it is not a long one. He's there for about a year, and that's really it. Vince put Sabu in a lot of pretty prominent positions. He has the world title match with Ray. He gets John Cena in a one-on-one match where one of his coolest spots ever, the run up the rope through the table on Cena.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a position you just arbitrarily give to somebody. What do you think Vince saw in Sabu during his brief period of time working there?
I mean, I think Vince realized he was special. I mean, he's the guy that he's really like the forefather of that style, especially like being suicidal, homicidal, genocidal, putting people through tables, punishing himself as well. You know, and I think Vince realized like he was a very legitimate act. And I think he also probably appreciated the sacrifice, how giving he was of his body and how, you know, how many chances he was willing to take just for the love of the business. So I think it were those things combined with the fact that like people dug him because they didn't know how to take Sabu. He was like, this blew a lot of people's minds, you know, when he would do these things and he would get up and continue walking again. It reminds me of a lot of ways. There are some similarities, I think, in when you see Jeff do his thing. Sorry, I don't know why this is in the way here. There we go. That's for my wife streaming. Whenever you see Jeff doing his thing and people are like, oh my God, this guy's a rubber man. You know, he does these crazy, insane things and he keeps getting up. He keeps getting up. Like, you can't destroy this guy. He's indestructible. And I think there's a lot of love for Sabu like that. And I think there are people that just like were just enamored by that. I think him and Jeff share a lot of the same qualities. They both feel like they both felt like whenever they were going out, speaking of Sabu, that he needed to go to the extreme every single night and show the people that he still had it and that he was, you know, he was forging a new frontier when it came to pro wrestling every single night. And, you know, that's something Jeff still takes a lot of pride into. Jeff wants to get the Swanton and the Whisper in the Wind in if he can, because those things are important to him, because he knows people love seeing that from Jeff Hardy.
Earlier this year, Sabu was on RVD's podcast, and he mentioned how Vince came up to him one time and said, you should be a top babyface. You should be a top guy. And he wanted him to do all of these super long promos, because that's not something we really saw a lot of Sabu do, right? He wanted him to say into the camera, I'm the homicidal, genocidal, suicidal Sabu. And he talked about how that was very unnatural for him. And he believes his refusal to do a promo with Stephanie actually is what got him fired in the first place. I feel like at that time in WWE, it's like, if you didn't have the willingness at least to go that route, it probably didn't bear very well for you. Do you think there's something to that?
No, I'm sure it didn't bear well for him. I mean, because like once you come to WWE, and if they want you to go in a certain direction, you kind of got to go in that certain direction. You can try and forge, you know, a better path, you know, if you see it a different way. But if they want you to kind of go down a certain road, you kind of got to start going down that certain road. And yes, if they wanted him to do that promo, it would have been nice if he would have tried it. But maybe in some ways, knowing Sabu as I do, I feel like he would have thought me doing these promos is me selling out. This is not who I am. You know, I'm quiet. I am the homicidal, genocidal, suicidal Sabu. And, you know, I don't speak like that. And that's why he said he thought it made him feel uncomfortable, you know, because he just wanted to go out there and let his speaking be done in the ring by his actions and his insane spots and whatnot.
And I think there's almost something to be said too. There are people in wrestling that, and I hate to use this term because I think it's so overused today, but there is that aura about them, right? And Sabu kind of fits that to a mold where I'm not so sure that Sabu cutting all these crazy promos really would have done all that much for him when there was such a captivating thing about his presence alone. I mean, do you think, with all your time and experience in WWE, could Sabu have become a top guy in WWE?
I mean, in theory, if he was healthy, and especially if he had his outside the ring conduct in check, it could have been possible. I mean, he was such a unique anomaly. I mean, Jeff Hardy did it. Jeff Hardy's never been known for his promos, right? Jeff Hardy has gotten over on his risk-taking ability and just his work in ring and his selling and just the sympathy people feel for him. And I think Sabu is very similar. I think there's a lot of parallels between Jeff Hardy and Sabu. And I just think Sabu was not of the right mindset to be a top guy where he's like sober all the time and he has to keep things in check. And, he has to, do all the work that comes with being that top guy as far as interviews or appearances or whatever it may be. It's just, I think if he would have had a different mindset and not been the way that he was, it's possible, especially with the way that he was so unique. He was such an enigma. And there were so many reasons you were pulled in when you're watching a Sabu match, and that's why ECW was the perfect environment for him, because he could have it all his way, and he got to live the life he wanted to live. He had to do the things he wanted to do in the ring, just as he wanted to do it. He didn't have to do promos. Paul Heyman highlighted him in the way he wanted to be highlighted. So, that's where he felt like he was at his best. And I would imagine just because he was so old school, he's like, if I don't do that, then I feel like I'm selling out, and you don't want to be a sellout.
You had 3 singles matches with Sabu. You defeated him at Extreme Rising on December 29th, 2012. You defeated him in a street fight at Big Time Wrestling in 2014. And then a few months later, you defeated him in a TLC match in Spartanburg at Big Time Wrestling.
Yeah.
Anything you can share from those 3 singles matches? I imagine a TLC match between Matt Hardy and Sabu had to have been pretty wild.
Yeah, it was. He was real hurt that day. I do remember he was talking about that a couple issues were nagging him real bad, and like wanted to work smart, but he still like did some crazy stuff. It's almost very similar to like Jeff saying, well, like I'm hurt, I'll probably only do like a dive out of the ring. I'll probably just do the swanton, and I'll take a couple crazy bumps. I'll go through 2 tables, but I'm pretty hurt besides that. So that's kind of how Sabu was in that environment. I know there were a couple things he just asked me to look out for and try and take care of him. And I could feel in that match that he was beat up. He was beat up pretty badly. But he was a joy. He was a joy to work with, man. He was super easy. He never had a problem about like winning or losing. And I think Jeff and I are pretty similar when it comes to that. I enjoyed it, man. The first match I had with him, I liked a lot because he was real healthy. We had a good, solid match. We did a couple hardcore elements to it, and the crowd was real into it. And the TLC match, I would love to watch that back. I actually saw it as posted online on like the Big Time Wrestling Facebook page, so I'd like to go watch it back. But I just remember he was hurt pretty badly that day going into it, so we tried to just do like a smart version of a TLC match.
Sure.
I would like to go back and watch that match and just see what I think about it, in hindsight.
There was also your last time facing him was about 10 years ago. You and Jeff lost to RVD and Sabu at the WrestleCon Super Show in March of 2015. What do you remember about that last encounter?
I remember like we were really excited to wrestle with those guys. Because obviously we have a ton of respect for them. And I just remember we were kind of, programmed at this time to like do our tag matches in a certain way. And there was a lot of times where somebody said, let's not do it that way. We should just brawl here and go out and do whatever. And it was just like, we were kind of on different pages. I mean, everything went fine. It was pretty chaotic and it was unorthodox. And I think Sabu took a lot of pride in kind of making his match look unorthodox in many ways. And that's the one thing I remember about that match more than anything else is just like, we definitely had 2 different visions of the style of match we wanted to have with one another. But it was what it was.
There's a lot of people who had a lot of respect for Sabu. He's going to go down as an all-timer in the industry. Matt Presley watching live, he says, I always heard great things from my dad about the Sheik if he was working for or wrestling against him. What would you say will be Sabu's legacy in wrestling beyond the hardcore aspect?
I mean, I think more than anything else, I mean, sure, it falls into the hardcore category, but I mean, he was just a trailblazer. He looked at a different way to tell stories in a wrestling match, you know, and he was doing the story by saying like he is willing to kill himself. He is willing to, you know, unalive himself, suicidal, homicidal, genocidal. He's willing to do all this stuff to win a match. And that's the kind of crazy performer he is. And then once he incorporated tables into his matches, and he was doing that constantly, and he was the guy that really put tables on the map. I mean, look how massive the utilizations of tables are in pro wrestling in 2025. I mean, Sabu is the guy that like put that on the map, and he made it a thing. I mean, so I think more than even the hardcore stuff. And I think when you look at his wrestling style, it showed how things were going to change. Even the stuff we emulated in Omega, the X Division later on, the AEW style, you know, he was a high-flying acrobat who did all these cool things, you know, and he had a very different style than the traditional style at that time. I mean, he was a pioneer. He was a groundbreaker that really added so much to the business, and he took a lot of pride in telling stories in wrestling matches in a different way.
And, you know, the fact that you got to see him one last time a few weeks ago before he passed really does put into perspective of like, you truly never know when the last time you're going to talk to someone is. And I mean, how does that resonate with you?
I mean, I'm glad I got to see him and have an interaction, you know, for 90 seconds or whatever it was. One thing, the year before that at WrestleMania, we actually got to talk to him for a while, which was pretty cool. It's when we took the picture with him, and him and Fonzie came by at our table. We were super slammed at the WrestleCon, whatever, and we took the picture. And I say this all the time, and especially if you're close with someone, and I do it with my family all the time. I think sometimes even my kids go like, God, why are you just, Dad? You're just like going to the store. Like, why are you saying I love you? Like, I say I love you to the people that I love every time, because you never know when's going to be the last time you're going to say it. And I want to make sure that they know, for me, that I do love them when it's all said and done. And that's something that's something probably being involved in this pro wrestling business and seeing these tragic deaths that happen, you know, especially I was very impacted, you know, by the you know, Wyndham Rotundo, by Bray Wyatt, by, you know, Jay Briscoe, you know, those things just remind you, man, like, tomorrow is not guaranteed. And it's really changed my perspective in a lot of ways in all of life. And, you know, I want to live to be 150 years old, you know, but like, who knows, man. I'm very happy with every day I have on this side of the ground, and that I'm not in a box. And I want to let all the people know that while I'm here on earth, that if I love you, I want you to know that I love you.
There you go. There you go. Great words to live by, my friend. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk about Sabu here and his legacy and what he leaves behind. And an exceptional performer, truly an exceptional performer that, in terms of influence, is going to be one of those unsung heroes in pro wrestling history that you're going to be seeing the effects of his work for decades to come. And
yes.
That's pretty cool to be able to say at the end of the day. Great stuff, my friend. Anything else you want to add on Sabu?
Yeah, there is. Just a comparison I want to make. You know, there was one time when I was at an Extreme Rising show. I did a few shows for those guys where, you know, this is after I'd cleaned my act up and got everything together, where Sabu came, and I could tell he was a bit altered, and he's like, hey, come on, man, you got some pills, you know, you got to have this, you got to have that. Come on. I know. And I was like, no, man, like I'm you know, I'm straight. I'm all good. You know, I'm all good. And he kind of patted me down, you know, and it was funny the way he did it. But it's just kind of very much a mindset for someone like him who like beats himself up and puts himself through his pain and then slides down that slippery slope where, you know, oh, I can take these pills and then I don't feel it. And then I can do it the next night, or, you know, I can do it next, you know, the next couple nights or whatever. And there are a lot of parallels, I think, between Jeff and Sabu. And even in some of their addiction issues, I can see those strong parallels. And the thing that I think about more than anything else is like Jeff got to a point where, you know, he hit rock bottom, and I'm sure Sabu had as well at times. But like Jeff said, like, I have children, like I have responsibilities, I have a wife and a family, and like Jeff made it through to the other side where, you know, there's obviously so many times that have been horrifying instances that he has survived. I mean, same with me, but like, especially Jeff and Sabu were guys who would go to the next level when it would come to that, when it would come to addiction issues. And I'm just so happy Jeff was able to get to where he is right now. And so proud of him, and how, like, you can tell by his mentality, there's like never, ever any turning back. And it's upsetting in some ways. And it's sad, that Sabu still he had those demons, that he had to deal with. And once again, no idea why he passed away. And this is not incorporating anything into that, but like, it would have been amazing if you could have got a Sabu of the same mindset and same work ethic, that would have been able to have his like personal life in check at all times. That would have been like amazing to see, because he was like, he was a good guy. Like, he wasn't a bad soul. He wasn't someone that was out to like, cheat people and do people wrong and betray people. Like, a lot of people loved him, and you're going to hear that a lot more now that, he's gone, and that, they're not really talking about Sabu, the character. They're talking about Terry Brunk, the man. So it makes me happy for Jeff. And in some ways, I wish Sabu could have got to that point in some capacity.
Well, we are very happy for Jeff as well, who has been doing amazing. And I can't wait to see you guys this summer. I'll see you guys a whole bunch this summer, especially at our live show in Kowloon. It's going to be a great time. And I love seeing Jeff on stage, interacting with the crowd in his happy place. Like, that's the very best way to see Jeff Hardy, just doing his thing. And you're 100% right. That's not a gimmick. You're saying Jeff is in a great place, and hopefully for good has kicked those demons. And it is unfortunate that so many in wrestling have dealt with those, right. Sabu being one of them, but still, again, a tremendous legacy left behind did Sabu. I want to remind everyone, advertisewithhardy.com is the place to be. Get your business in front of thousands of listeners every single week on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Promote your business to the extreme, advertisewithhardy.com. And, of course, as I alluded to earlier on this episode of The Extreme Life, we are coming to Kowloon, HardyBoysLive.com. That's boys with a Z, August 10th at the world-famous Kowloon restaurant just outside of Boston. Join us there. Limited VIP and GA tickets available right now. Matt, anything you want to add to the diehardies out there?
No, man. Just love having you tuning in each and every week to hear John and I talk shop. So it's always a good time here at The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Certainly is. The words have been spoken. We'll see you next week right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Delete!
We're helping people save money at SaveWithConrad.com, and with all the economic turmoil going on the last few weeks and all the uncertainty it brings, here's one thing that is certain: your home is still worth more than what you paid for it. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, the value of your home is still going up year over year, which means you're most likely sitting on untapped equity. Did you purchase your home or refinance it a few years back and got one of those really low COVID interest rates, and now maybe you're worried about giving it up? Well, here's something to think about. While the interest on your mortgage payment is low, the interest you're paying on your credit card balances is most likely wiping out those savings and then some. So what's more important, clinging on to that low rate or saving money each month? Let's talk about using the equity you've built up in your home and rolling all that debt into one lower monthly payment. Someone who just did that was our man Andrew, a maintenance worker in Tennessee. He needed to pay off some debt, and he needed to get a new roof and some new floors for his home. So instead of taking out more debt to do these upgrades, he came to SaveWithConrad.com to use the equity he's built up in his home and do a refinance. SaveWithConrad.com helped him accomplish all of those upgrades he wanted on his home. He paid off his debt, and now he's saving over $400 a month. He even got to skip his next 2 house payments. And you can do it too. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com and let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no cost and no obligation. And if we can't help you save some money today, we won't waste your time. It doesn't cost a thing to look, and you've got nothing to lose except some crazy high interest rates on those credit cards. You know you can do better. Start saving money today for your family with my family at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender.